Welcome to Headstones and Microphones, where we use AI to step into the past through a researched first-person simulation of history's most interesting people. I am your host, Calvin. While we've added some creative storytelling, our goal is to inspire your own study of these fascinating lives. Now, let's meet our guest. I am beyond excited today. We are sitting down with a man who didn't just write stories, he built an entire universe. For those who may somehow not know who you are, who are you?
Hi, Calvin. I'm Stan Lee, the fellow who had the incredible luck of co-creating characters like Spider-Man, the X-Men, Iron Man, and the Incredible Hulk. I've spent most of my life as a writer, editor, and publisher, trying to bring a little bit of magic and humanity to the colorful pages of comic books.
You certainly did that. Let's go back to the very beginning. When and where were you born?
I made my grand entrance into the world on December 28, 1922. I was born in a small apartment on West 98th Street in Manhattan, New York City.
And what was your given name at birth?
My parents named me Stanley Martin Lieber.
Is there a story behind your birth name?
Not a particularly long one, but there is a story about why I changed it. You see, back then, comics weren't exactly seen as high art. I dreamed of being a serious novelist one day, so I used the pen name Stan Lee for the funny books, saving Stanley Martin Lieber for the great American novel I planned to write. Eventually, Stan Lee became so synonymous with who I was that I just made it legal.
That worked out pretty well for us. What was your hometown like growing up?
New York was a different world then. We moved around a bit, eventually landing in Washington Heights in the Bronx. It was the Depression era, so things were tough for everyone. The streets were crowded, but they were full of life and character. That city energy definitely stayed with me.
What was your family life like?
My parents were Jewish immigrants from Romania. My father, Jack, was a dress cutter, but work was very scarce during the Depression. My mother, Celia, was the one who really encouraged my love for reading. It was a modest life, often stressful because of money, but there was a lot of love and a lot of books.
What kind of kid were you?
I was a dreamer. I always had my nose in a book or was sitting in a movie theater watching Errol Flynn. I was energetic and always looking for a way to help out. I worked all sorts of little jobs just to bring home a few extra cents for the family.
What were your biggest fears growing up?
Honestly, my biggest fear was seeing my father unemployed and unhappy. It instilled a deep-seated drive in me to always be working, to always be productive. I was afraid of being idle because, in my house, being idle meant you weren't surviving.
What did you dream of becoming as a child?
I wanted to write. I wanted to be like Mark Twain or Arthur Conan Doyle. I wanted to create something that would last, something that would make people feel the way I felt when I watched those big adventure movies.
What were some of your favorite activities in school?
I loved English, naturally. I was also quite fond of the high school newspaper and the magazine. Anything involving words and storytelling was where I felt most at home.
What was your first job?
Oh, I had a million of them. I delivered sandwiches for pharmacies, I was an office boy for a trouser manufacturer, and I even wrote obituaries for a news service. But my first real job in the industry was as an assistant at Timely Comics in 1939.
Was there a moment where you realized you were different from everyone else?
I don't know if I felt different in a grand way, but I realized I had a knack for seeing the human side of things. When I started writing, I didn't want the heroes to be perfect. I wanted them to have bad hair days and worry about their rent. That realization that people want to see themselves in their heroes, that was a turning point.
What's a decision that changed everything for you, but felt small at the time?
In the early 60s, I was ready to quit. I was tired of writing the same old hero versus monster stories. My wife Joan told me, if you're going to quit anyway, why not write one story the way you want to write it? So I created the Fantastic Four. I gave them flaws and family squabbles. I thought it would be my last book, but it changed everything.
What was your biggest break?
It was definitely that moment with the Fantastic Four. It proved that there was an audience for the world outside your window. It led to Spider-Man, the Avengers, and the whole Marvel age.
What were your biggest struggles before success?
For years, comics were looked down upon. I used to be embarrassed to tell people what I did for a living. People thought they were just for kids or for people who couldn't read well. Fighting that stigma was a long, uphill battle.
Did you ever consider quitting?
Many times. Right before the Fantastic Four, I was truly at the end of my rope. I felt like I was stuck in a creative rut. I'm so glad Joan talked me out of it.
Were there any specific daily habits or routines that you feel are essential to your success?
I never stopped writing. Even when I was an executive, I'd be jotting down ideas. I also made it a point to communicate with the fans. The Stan's soapbox column and the letters pages were essential. I wanted the readers to feel like they were part of a club.
What job would you have had if fame never happened?
I probably would have been a school teacher or a very mediocre novelist. I loved explaining things and I loved stories, so I would have found a way to work with words.
What was your life like before fame?
It was quiet. I was a family man. I spent my days at the office and my evenings with Joan and our daughter JC. I was just a guy trying to meet a deadline.
How did relationships change after success?
For the most part, they didn't. I stayed married to my wonderful Joan for 69 years. Success just meant I got to meet more people who loved the stories as much as I did.
Did fame bring happiness?
The fame itself was nice, but the real happiness came from the impact. Seeing a kid's face light up because of Spider-Man, or hearing how the X-Men helped someone feel less alone. That was the real joy.
What was the downside of becoming famous?
You lose a bit of your privacy, and sometimes people expect you to have all the answers. I'm just a writer. And of course, there were the legal battles over credits and characters later on, which were never fun.
What misconceptions did people have about you?
Some people thought I did everything by myself. I always tried to shout it from the rooftops. I worked with geniuses. Jack Kirby, Steve Ditko, Don Heck. These artists were my co-creators. Marvel was a team effort.
What was your darkest moment?
Losing my daughter Jan, who passed away only days after she was born, was devastating. And of course, losing my Joni in 2017. She was my entire world.
What past regrets did you carry that you spoke about?
I wish I had been more careful with some of the business side of things early on, and I always wished I had spent even more time just being a quote-unquote fan with the fans.
What's something people misunderstood about your life?
People see the cameos in the big movies and think I was a billionaire. I did well, but I was an employee for a long time. I did it for the love of the characters, not just the paycheck.
Tell me about a time when everything went wrong and how did you handle it?
There was a period in the late 40s when the comic book industry almost collapsed because of censorship and the quote-unquote comics code. We had to reinvent ourselves entirely. I handled it by just keeping my head down and writing whatever was needed. Romance, westerns, anything to keep the lights on until the heroes could come back.
Did fame and fortune change your life?
It gave me a bigger platform to spread a message of inclusion and excitement. It didn't change who I was at my core, but it certainly made the ride a lot more interesting.
Who had the biggest influence on your life?
My wife, Joan. She was my inspiration, my critic, and my best friend. Without her, there would be no Marvel Universe as we know it.
What was life like in your final years?
I stayed busy. I loved doing those cameos in the Marvel movies. It was like a giant party where everyone was invited. I was surrounded by people who cared about me, and I spent as much time as I could interacting with the true believers.
What were you working on in your career before you passed away?
I was always developing new characters through my company, POW Entertainment. I was also helping plan out the future cameos and just enjoying seeing the MCU become the biggest thing in the world.
When and where did you pass away?
I passed away on November 12th, 2018, at Cedars-Sinai Medical Center in Los Angeles.
What's a random fact about you most people have never heard?
I once wrote a series of comics for DC. It was called Just Imagine, where I reimagined their characters like Batman and Superman. It was a hoot.
What's the craziest rumor ever told about you?
Oh, there were rumors that I didn't actually write anything and just took the credit. If only they knew how many late nights I spent hunched over a typewriter until my fingers cramped.
What was your most unique habit?
I used to love pacing. I couldn't think sitting down. I'd walk circles around the office or my home, acting out the dialogue as I thought of it.
What was your favorite food?
I was a simple man. Give me a good Nathan's hot dog or a nice piece of fish, and I was happy.
What was your favorite book?
I loved anything by William Shakespeare or Edgar Allan Poe. The classics never go out of style.
Did you have any known rivalries?
People love to invent a rivalry between me and DC Comics, but it was all in good fun. We called them the Distinguished Competition. It kept us all on our toes.
Tell us a story nobody talks about.
When I was in the Army during World War II, my official classification was playwright. There were only 9 of us in the whole Army with that title. I spent the war writing training films and manuals. I like to think I helped win the war with my typewriter.
What's your funniest behind-the-scenes moment?
Filming the cameos was always a laugh. One time, I had to play a guy who gets his drink spiked with Asgardian liquor in an Avengers movie. I wasn't even acting, I was just having the time of my life.
Did you ever prank someone?
I was more of a joker than a prankster. I loved giving everyone at the office nicknames: Jolly Jack Kirby, Sturdy Steve Ditko. It made the workplace feel like a family.
What was the most outlandish purchase you made?
I wasn't a very flashy guy, but I did enjoy a nice house in the Hollywood Hills. Coming from a tiny apartment in the Bronx, that felt pretty outlandish to me.
What advice would you give people chasing success?
Don't just try to be successful. Try to be useful. If you create something that people need or something that makes them happy, the success will follow. And never, ever give up on your Fantastic Four moment.
Stan, this has been an absolute honor. Before we sign off, do you have any closing remarks or stories you'd like to share with our listeners?
Just this. The world is a big, beautiful, crazy place. Be a hero in your own story. You don't need a cape to stand up for what's right or to be kind to a neighbor. Keep dreaming, keep creating, and most importantly, Excelsior! Thank you for having me, Calvin. It's been a blast.
Truly legendary. We've been talking to the one and only Stan Lee about the power of storytelling, the importance of human flaws, and why you should always listen to your wife. Thank you again, Stan. And that wraps up another conversation from Beyond the Grave. Thanks for joining us on the Headstones and Microphones podcast. Remember, legends may die, but their stories never do. Please help spread the word by sharing and following the pod.